Welcome back. Ed Martin here in the Pro America Report. You know, our next guest, we had her on the program a few, maybe weeks ago or months ago. She's, she operates uncoverdc.com. And, you know, in this world where we see Project Veritas has these unbelievable breaking, videos and James O'Keefe does his work and other things. Tracy Beanz has been with uncoverdc.com, been basically one of the best journalists around at covering what's happening. And Tracy, I'll tell you what the best compliment I can offer anyone is I was on a phone call with General Mike Flynn and his brother, Joe, and we're talking about different things and we're talking about the future. And General Flynn said, you know, and Tracy, she's really good at this. You know, she's really good. And I said, Tracy who? Because I didn't know it was African Miller, you know, talking. And he said, Tracy Beanz, you know, that uncoverdc.com. So there you have it. You know, General Flynn was appreciative of all your good work. But if you go to the site right now, everybody, you'll see coverage of the things I've been talking about. In my opening today, I talked about stuff that no media is covering, and Tracy's got it there. So first of all, welcome, Tracy. Congratulations on General Flynn thinking you're good. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. How wonderful of a compliment is that? Thank you. I'm like beet red now.
I figured. I told you I'd make you happy. But now let me ask you about that. You've watched this case and you've covered all the different aspects of this case. UncoverDC.com has, and your people, you know, as you put it together, and it's just twisted and turned all around, right? And we're sort of to the end. But I guess even for the jaded journalists or jaded political types like me, it's kind of stunning, and it's not kind of, it's stunning how deep it goes. I mean, these notes now from Strzok about this thing. I mean, as you pull back and you put your hat, a journalist hat off, and you put it down and say, how did this happen in America? Isn't it stunning to you?
It's disgusting. And the worst thing is that when you think it's bad, it gets worse. It really does. And,
right.
You know, just the hubris of these folks to think that they could write stuff like this down and still get away with it. You know, Bill Priestap literally wrote, what's our goal? To get Flynn to lie? I mean, this is how sure of themselves these folks were. And thank goodness for this case, because honestly, as hard as it's been for General Flynn and his family, it has really exposed so much. If he had not retained Sidney Powell, we would have not ever known any of this.
It is amazing, and I think that's right. One of the secrets of this is that Sidney Powell, when someone writes the sort of history of how General Flynn was able to make the decision to get to, you know, fire his lawyers and get to her, which was the pivotal moment in a way. It's another whole story. All right, Tracy, what's the biggest story right now when you see? Because I know you watch it. The media, the fake news, what they don't cover, and then your uncoverdc.com. What's the biggest one that they're missing, that they're ignoring? If you had to, I know it's a funny question, but the media is ignoring, and you're saying, "Hey, what about this?"
It's definitely actually right now, as of today, what happened yesterday with the release of the Peter Strzok notes and the appeals court in General Flynn. You know, none of the major networks outside of Fox talked about this at all, and it goes straight up to a major presidential candidate in Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden was involved in this. He has not been faced with a question yet that I've seen, and he lied the last time he was asked. Outside of that, there's also more tapes being released on, you know, sort of secret recordings that were done between Joe Biden and former president of Ukraine. And they are showing that the CIA was involved over there with their elections, presidents thanking Joe Biden for his intel guys coming over. They show bribery and, you know, the threat of bribery. And so that's being ignored as well.
Wow, I hadn't even seen it. See, that's why I'm glad we have. We're talking with Tracy Beanz, who is the founder and the editor. Is that the title for you at uncoverdc.com? Doesn't matter what your title is. You got a million things going. What about this piece up there on the that there's this Perkins Coie, which is a sort of, if you know the politics, it's a well-known sort of insider Democrat law firm, and it looks like in 2016 they were ramping up, and this seems apropos now because suddenly you're hearing Biden and others say, oh, the elections, no one's going to, you know, abide by the elections. Well, it looks like in 2016, this law firm was ramping up to sort of fight the validity of the election, or tell me what you're seeing in this.
Yeah, so Perkins Coie hired Fusion GPS, and Fusion GPS hired Christopher Steele, who wrote the dossier. In June of 2016 is when he was hired. And Perkins Coie, I guess, was hiring Fusion GPS, they say, to be able to have some legal validity to challenge the outcome of the 2016 election. And that was revealed in a court case overseas against Orbis, the company that Christopher Steele founded. They wrote in these court papers that they were working for Fusion GPS to be able to provide them with information that would allow the DNC to challenge the outcome of the election. That was in June of 2016. So put it on the timeline and think about where that falls.
You have to, and what I tell people right now is, in 2016, you have to go back in your mind and think you have to go back in time and rack your memory. They thought they were going to win. So they thought they were going to win, and they did a lot of things. But when it came to the actual election, they really weren't, I think, doing all the things they could have done to steal the election or to muck it up or to make it crazy. This time, whether it's Twitter knocking off conservative voices in the last couple days, or Facebook making clear where their preferences are, or the move to do mail-in balloting. We had someone on the show earlier, 100% mail-in balloting in different places. I mean, they're moving with dispatch to not take another chance. And so I guess the question in my mind is where's the next series of kind of efforts going to come from? What about Joe Biden, Tracy? I mean, you're a journalist. You watch this. We're talking again with Tracy Beanz, UncoverDC.com. Can he really get away with operating from his basement? I mean, is the media going to I guess they are going to let him get away with this?
Yeah, it doesn't seem as though there'll be any pressure on him. And I think that part of making the the convention, the DNC Virtual, is another feather in that cap to allow him to continue to claim that he can't leave and he doesn't want to be out in public. And he rarely speaks to anyone. Anytime he goes anywhere, there's 5 or 6 people at the event. It's really paltry. And, the unrest that's going on all over the country is another tool they're using to kind of mess with elections, believe it or not. So there's like a multifaceted thing going on with the media focused on all of that. They very rarely bring up Joe Biden. Every time he talks, there's a gaffe. I'm surprised they're going to nominate him.
Well, people wonder about that, and they say something could happen. But here's the thing that actually I think is really if you're like me and you hope that President Trump wins again, then this is really important. The media is propping up Joe Biden and telling him the polls are great. And I know people are saying, well, they're going to replace him. They'll put in somebody else and all. But if you're Joe Biden, you've spent your whole career thinking you're going to be president. You're not going to yield when they're telling you you're up in the polls. You're not going to say, oh, good, I'll step aside now. No, he's going to say, I'll be in there. And if I'm only one term or I'm a caretaker, it doesn't matter. I'll be president. And the polls are wrong. I'm sure they're wrong. And it's also not the election day yet. But I think the polls telling him he's doing better means it's even less likely that he'll step aside. But I guess here's a question, Tracy. Your assessment after observing politics and things. Will there be debates? Will there actually be 3 presidential debates?
That's a really great question you asked, because I was just debating this with a good friend of mine the other day. They don't think so, and I couldn't really counter him too much on it. I don't know if they will put him up against President Trump. I just don't know. I mean, they haven't been announced yet. It's almost July. It's almost July.
No, they have been. They have been announced. They have been announced. There's been. I know the University of Michigan was supposed to host a debate, and they just declined because of the coronavirus. And so that one's supposedly being moved to Florida. But the first debate, this is important. This is my argument. I'm glad I asked you, and we can talk about it.
See this,
but the first debate. Yeah, the first debate is supposed to be at the University of Notre Dame in Indiana. Now, Catholic school, all this tradition, but more importantly, Father John Jenkins, the president of Notre Dame, who's a liberal, he's a left-leaning president of Notre Dame, a priest. He is on the commission for presidential debates and has been for about 5 years. So he's invested in that world heavily, and I don't think that Notre Dame will blink on hosting a debate. I think they'll figure it out. And I don't think Biden can resist going to Notre Dame because he's Joe Catholic. He likes to talk about it. I mean, he's against almost every position the Catholics have. But so at least that one, I wonder if that will take place. But I don't know. Maybe, as you say, they may not want to put him on a stage at all. So we'll see.
It might be the first presidential campaign in history where we don't get to see one of the candidates, but for 2-minute clips.
Yeah.
It's really something.
And that might be his only chance to win. So that may be it. All right, I got to run. Thank you, Tracy Beanz, for doing so much good work over at uncoverdc.com. Everybody should check it out. And for your records, for your files, General Flynn's appreciation of your good work is about as good as it gets. So thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tracy. We'll take another quick break and be right back. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Be right back.